Sanders could stay in Cleveland, or Jerry Jones could change everything. Where will he land?
Understands business, and he will trade his quarterback for Sanders. Dallas is where Sanders is going to be.
Are the Cleveland Browns cursed? How many years have we been saying this for? Well, we're still saying it.
And in Brazil next year, how excited are you for that opportunity to get back to an international game?
Well, I look to where our fans are. I'm excited about the Cowboy fans that we have in Brazil. I'm excited about the country of Brazil. I have a lot of business in Brazil. And so I have a lot of respect. And to be able to take our team, take the Cowboys down there and be a part of their sports scene is a big deal.
The first time we've talked to you since you guys hired Christian Parker as our new defensive coordinator.
Shedeur Sanders could stay in Cleveland, or Jerry Jones could change everything. Where will he land? To be able to take our team, take the Cowboys down there and be a part of their sports scene is a big deal. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. This just got real. Like, really real. Because what we just heard isn't your usual off-season rumor, not your typical smokescreen, not another talking head filling airtime in May. This feels different. The second those words hit the timeline, the second Jerry Jones's name and Shedeur Sanders' name were spoken in the same breath with numbers that big, the entire NFL world stopped and leaned in. You could feel it. Group chats lit up. Cowboys fans went from bored to unhinged in about 5 minutes. And everyone knew, whether they wanted to admit it or not, this wasn't normal. This isn't business as usual. We've seen rumors before. We've seen leverage plays, contract whispers, sources say, nonsense that fades in a week. But this? A young quarterback walking into a situation involving Jerry Jones, the most powerful, stubborn, headline-loving owner in the league, and allegedly setting the terms. That hits different. That shakes something loose. Because for decades, that room in Dallas has belonged to one man. Players don't dictate in there. They listen. They nod. They're grateful to wear the star. And now we're talking about a quarterback who hasn't even hit his prime yet, reportedly flipping that dynamic on its head. That's why this rumor exploded instantly. Because Cowboys fans know exactly where their team is right now. Stuck. Not terrible, not elite, just stuck. Always good enough to matter. Never dangerous enough to finish the job. And when you hear the possibility of a quarterback who doesn't just want to play for Dallas, but wants to reshape how Dallas operates, of course the fan base loses its mind. Half of them are dreaming about relevance again. The other half are terrified of change. And both sides are arguing like this decision is life or death, because in a way, it is. This doesn't feel like off-season noise, because it isn't just about football. It's about power. It's about control. It's about whether the NFL is still run the way it was 20 years ago, or whether we've crossed into something new, where quarterbacks understand their leverage earlier, louder, and without apology. We've seen hints of this before. We saw players betting on themselves. We saw guys like Jalen Hurts get doubted, written off, then flip the entire narrative by forcing organizations to build around them. But this is different. This isn't proving it on the field first and getting rewarded later. This is walking in knowing your worth and daring the league to tell you no. This isn't normal. This isn't business as usual. And that's why people are uncomfortable. Because when a young quarterback isn't desperate, when he isn't begging for approval, when he isn't just happy to be there, the whole system starts to wobble. Owners don't like that. Old school analysts don't like that. Fans who are used to tradition don't like that. But uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong. So the real question isn't whether this rumor is true down to every dollar. The real question is bigger than Dallas, bigger than Shedeur, bigger than one contract or one off-season headline. Are we watching confidence? Or are we watching the birth of a new NFL era? 10 years ago, this would have been laughed out of the room. Today, front offices are calling emergency meetings. That's the part people are missing when they ask, why does Shedeur even think he can do this? Because this league has changed. Quietly, slowly, and then all at once. The value system is different now, especially at quarterback. Teams aren't just paying for what you've done, they're paying for what you might become. Upside is the most expensive currency in the NFL, and quarterbacks with real upside, they don't hit the market often. That's where Shedeur sits right now. Not as some finished product, not as a polished, 10-year vet, but as a quarterback with momentum, buzz, and belief around him. Coaches see tools they can mold. Owners see a face they can sell. Locker rooms see a guy who carries himself like he belongs. And in this league, perception turns into leverage faster than people want to admit. Look around the NFL. Teams are desperate. Not, we'd like to upgrade. Desperate. Existential desperate. Seasons get coaches fired. Misses at quarterback get GMs erased. Every front office knows the math. If you don't have the guy, you're living on borrowed time. And desperation makes teams do things they swore they'd never do. That's why this isn't just about Shedeur. It's about timing. Dallas, especially, is vulnerable right now. They're not rebuilding. They're not resetting. They're stuck in the middle, good enough to compete, not dangerous enough to scare anybody. That's the worst place to be in the NFL. And when you're in that spot, you start looking at quarterbacks differently. You start wondering if playing it safe is actually the bigger risk. Meanwhile, the media narrative is doing what it always does, questioning, poking, downplaying. Talking about what Shedeur hasn't proven yet. Talking about what he still needs to show. But inside locker rooms, the conversation is different. Players know confidence when they see it. They know leadership before the box score confirms it. They know when someone isn't scared of the moment. And that's why this franchise QB scarcity problem matters so much. There are maybe a dozen quarterbacks in the league who teams genuinely trust when the season's on the line. Everyone else is either a placeholder, a project, or a prayer. When a quarterback with belief, upside, and presence becomes available, or even rumored to be available, the market goes crazy. Because teams don't want to be the ones left behind. 10 years ago, a young quarterback demanding this level of respect would have been labeled delusional. Today, teams are quietly asking themselves a harder question. What if he's right? What if waiting for proof is how you miss your window? What if the next era of quarterbacks isn't asking permission anymore? And that's exactly why the criticism started pouring in. The backlash was immediate and honestly predictable. The second this story hit the airwaves, the same voices popped up right on schedule. Analysts shaking their heads. Executives whispering to reporters. Fans calling it arrogance, entitlement, delusion. You could almost hear the pearls being clutched through the screen. He hasn't earned that. This league doesn't work like that. Know your place. And that last part, that's the quiet one nobody says out loud, but everybody feels. Because let's be real, the pushback isn't actually about numbers or contracts. It's about control. Old school NFL thinking is built on a simple rule. Players perform, owners decide. That's how it's always been. So when a young quarterback steps into the spotlight and doesn't wait for permission, it rattles people who are comfortable with that hierarchy. Not because it's wrong football-wise, but because it threatens how power has always flowed in this league. They say he hasn't earned it. But earned it according to who? According to analysts who've never taken a snap? According to executives who swing and miss on quarterbacks every 2 years and still keep their jobs? According to owners who sign checks regardless of wins and losses? The idea of earning in the NFL has always been selective. When owners demand loyalty, it's called business. When players demand security, it's called selfish. That hypocrisy is loud right now. Owners lock players into contracts, trade them without warning, cut them after injuries, and nobody calls it emotional. Nobody calls it personal. It's just football. But the second a quarterback says, I want protection. I want stability. I want a say in where my career goes. Suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly it's ego. Suddenly it's disrespectful. And don't ignore the Cleveland angle in all of this. You don't have to know every detail to understand the lesson. Quarterbacks get dropped into situations where coaching changes, schemes shift, timelines don't align, and then they're blamed when it falls apart. Careers get labeled before they're fully formed. That sticks with a player. That shapes how you move the next time you're at the table. So, when critics say he's asking for too much, What they're really saying is they're uncomfortable with a player learning from the league instead of trusting it blindly. They say he hasn't earned it. But earned it according to who? Because the league has never required owners to earn patience. It's never required front offices to earn trust. It's only ever demanded that from players. And when a young quarterback refuses to play that game, refuses to smile, nod, and hope for the best, the reaction is fear, disguised as criticism. Fear of change. Fear of precedent. Fear of players realizing they don't have to wait their turn to protect themselves. And that's why the noise is so loud right now. Not because this is outrageous, but because it's unfamiliar. But here's what those critics are missing completely. This is what confidence actually looks like, and a lot of people don't know how to process it. Because confidence doesn't always come wrapped in humility quotes or media-trained sound bites. Sometimes it shows up as clarity. Sometimes it sounds like a player who knows exactly who he is, exactly what he brings to the table, and exactly what he's not willing to gamble with anymore. That's not entitlement, that's standards. And there's a massive difference between arrogance and standards. Arrogance is loud without substance. Standards are quiet, firm, and unmoving. Arrogance says, I deserve this because I want it. Standards say, I require this because I understand the risk. And quarterbacks understand risk better than anyone. Every snap could be the one. Every hit could change a career. We've watched it happen over and over again. One awkward tackle, one blindside sack, and the league moves on without blinking. That's why elite players protect themselves early. Not after the injuries pile up. Not after the leverage disappears. Early. When the market is hot, when teams are listening, when belief still outweighs doubt. That's not selfish, that's survival. And the quarterbacks who last in this league, the ones who shape franchises instead of being chewed up by them, are the ones who learn that lesson before it's too late. Leadership isn't just throwing touchdowns on Sundays. It's walking into a room and showing everyone you're not scared of responsibility. It's being willing to say, if you're building around me, then build with me, not over me. That kind of presence? Players feel it. Locker rooms respect it. Teammates don't need headlines to understand it. And here's the part the media misses every single time. Locker room respect matters more than approval from a studio desk. Players don't care who won the debate show that morning. They care about whether their quarterback believes in himself, whether he believes in them, whether he's willing to take the heat so everyone else can focus on football. That's leadership beyond the stat sheet. That's the stuff you don't measure until it's gone. Control matters, because careers are fragile. Because the NFL doesn't wait for development timelines. Because organizations promise patience, and then fire coordinators 6 months later. Because quarterbacks are asked to adapt endlessly, but rarely asked what they need to succeed. So when fans back a player who draws a line and says, this is what it takes for me to commit, they're not backing ego. They're backing empowerment. They're backing the idea that players don't have to hand over their futures and hope for the best anymore. And that's why this moment feels so charged. Because it validates a belief a lot of fans already have that the league is finally being forced to meet quarterbacks where they are, not where tradition says they should be. This isn't about winning a negotiation. It's about redefining partnership. And now, Jerry Jones has to decide. This decision will echo for years, no matter which way it goes. Because this isn't just a contract call. This isn't just Jerry Jones deciding whether to write a bigger check. This is a fork in the road moment. One of those rare points where the league either adapts or gets dragged forward kicking and screaming. And Jerry knows it. You don't spend decades at the top of this sport without recognizing when the ground is shifting under your feet. If he says yes, everything changes in Dallas. Saying yes means fully committing not just to a quarterback, but to a philosophy. It means admitting that the old way of doing things might not be enough anymore. It means building around a player instead of expecting the player to bend to the building. And if Dallas does that, suddenly the Cowboys aren't just relevant, they're dangerous. Suddenly they're not living off brand and nostalgia. They're betting on belief, on upside, on a quarterback who feels empowered instead of managed. It would signal to the locker room that this franchise is serious, that it's willing to evolve, that it understands where the league is going, not where it's been. And if that gamble hits, Jerry Jones doesn't just win games, he reshapes his legacy. But if he says no, that sends a message too. Saying no tells the league that tradition still matters more than adaptation, that control matters more than partnership, And the moment that happens, every other team starts watching closely because someone else will say yes. Someone else will decide that the risk is worth it. And when that happens, Dallas won't just lose a player, they'll lose the narrative. They'll be the team that hesitated while the future walked past them. And here's the wild part. Other teams are quietly rooting for chaos. Front offices that feel boxed in by old rules. Teams desperate for relevance. Organizations looking for a shortcut out of quarterback purgatory. They're watching this unfold like it's a test case. If Dallas breaks, the market breaks with it. If Dallas holds the line, someone else will cross it. That's why this moment feels so heavy. Because 10 years from now, we're going to look back at this and say either, that's when quarterbacks took real control, or that's when the league missed its chance to evolve faster. There's no neutral outcome here, just consequences. My prediction? Something gives. It always does. Maybe not cleanly, maybe not publicly, but the NFL doesn't stay still. Pressure builds, power shifts, and quarterbacks, especially the ones who believe in themselves early, tend to win these standoffs more often than people want to admit. So now, it's on Jerry Jones. Adapt and embrace what's coming, or stand firm and let someone else write the next chapter. Because whether you love it or hate it, this is the future knocking.